You're listening to the True Crime Nation podcast with Todd and Brian. If you're enjoying the show, email us at truecrimenation@outlook.com. Let's start the show. And we are back. This is True Crime Nation. My name is Brian. Right over there with me is Todd. What's up, buddy?
Hello, Brian. Hello, listeners. How's it going, man?
Great. I think we got a really good one tonight.
We do. Taking ourselves back to the Pacific Northwest once again with this one.
Ah, yes. I love the Pacific Northwest. I just wish it wasn't so full of crazies.
I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of them out there. And again, this one kind of hits home with us. We know the victim's family.
Yes, we do. Yes, we
so
do.
It does kind of hits home, and that's why we decided to do this one. And it's really, if you're into crime stories, it's definitely a crime story.
Oh, it's one for the ages, the way this thing unfolded here.
Right.
Man.
So as we've said before in other episodes, Brian and I travel to the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, Eastern Oregon for work. And, you know, we had the Luka Chang episode just recently that happened in Pendleton, Oregon. And this crime, murder, homicide, whatever you want to call it,
happened not far from there.
Happened in around La Grande, Oregon, which is just more east of that,
right.
Pendleton. But yeah, like we said, it hits home with us because we know, the victim's daughter and son-in-law fairly well. He was the first one to tell us about it, and
yeah,
I was in shock, when we heard about this. So, it goes back to what is the deal with people out there in that area of the country? It makes you
asked
wonder.
that question, before. I don't know if it's just the vastness of the wilderness out there that gives people the idea that they can get away with anything. I don't know. It's weird.
I just kind of was thinking that too, as you're saying that. I wonder if they think because there's so much vastness that they can get away with things. I don't know.
Weird.
This guy tried. Anyway.
He tried.
So we're talking about Gregory Alvin Cook. There's a show about this guy. It's called The Wonderland Murders. Terror in the Pines is the name of the episode. The Wonderland Murders is a series. It's not about the...
It's not that movie. Yeah. It's not that movie about the
Manson tribe and all that stuff.
Yeah, the one and John Holmes was involved in that one, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
But that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother,
right.
That's a whole nother crime.
But they call this series The Wonderland Murders.
Right. Because that's what they call the Pacific Northwest is Wonderland.
Yeah. And the name of the episode is Terror in the Pines, if you guys want to look it up and watch it.
Yeah, season 2, episode 1.
You just watched it, right?
I did.
And what do you think about it?
That guy was, I don't know, a psychopath, for lack of a better term.
He's definitely up there as far as the craziest people I've ever.
Because they played the tapes when the cops were grilling him, when questioning him, and the way he talked about it was just so nonchalant, matter of fact. Yeah, he had no remorse whatsoever. He had no qualms about killing the people the way he killed them.
Right. Well, he claimed that he did it when he was all high on meth, and then when he was off meth, he's like, "Yeah, I screwed up. I killed him." Getting to the case here, the audience is probably dying to know what the hell this is about. I think he was just drifting from town to town as a self-proclaimed painter for hire.
Yeah, house painter.
And I think that's how he hooked up with the victims.
He met them, according to the TV show, at a bar. They were shooting pool.
Okay, that's right.
And then they left there and went to another bar, and then the partying started, and it went downhill from there, according to the TV show.
Yeah, so they met in a bar. They started doing drugs. So it's a lady named Shannon Marie Sloan, Jeremiah Johnston, and Frank Scaramuzzi. I think one of the guys and Shannon were dating, and then the other guy was just a friend. third wheel.
Frank was the one she was dating.
Yeah. Jeremiah was just kind of the third wheel, who was a younger dude, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So they meet this guy, this Greg Cook, in the bar. They start hanging out doing drugs, and then one thing leads to another. Greg kills all three of them. It says here, as triple murderer Gregory Alvin Cook was led away from the Union County Circuit Court to begin serving life without parole, people in the courtroom applauded. One man's voice was heard above the sound clapping hands. "Rotten hell," the man called out. After hearing bitter remarks from family and friends of the victims, Cook drew 3 consecutive life sentences. I can't remember what year this happened in. It's been about 8 years ago, I believe. Cook drew 3 consecutive life sentences for the killings of Shannon Marie Sloan, Jeremiah Johnston, and Frank Scaramuzzi. He also was sentenced to 10 years for dismembering Sloan's corpse and 5 years for being a felon in possession of a firearm he used to kill Johnston and Scaramuzzi. In addition, he was ordered to pay $12,600 in restitution. Weird.
Yeah.
According to a negotiated plea agreement worked out with the Union County District Attorney's Office, Cook, who confessed to the crimes, may never appeal. In return, the state agreed not to seek the death penalty. So that dude's in the prison for life. He can't go up for parole ever.
Right. 3 consecutive life sentences. That means when he dies and he's reincarnated, that guy's doing a life sentence. And when that guy dies and he gets reincarnated, that guy's doing a life sentence.
Well, he should, for what the hell he did. You know?
So he's screwed for 3 lifetimes, which, yeah, he deserves.
Well,
he deserves.
Speaking of that, it says, in handing down the sentence, Judge Russell West said that since Cook can actually serve only 1 life term, the 3 consecutive life sentences are symbolic. There is no punishment that's severe enough for you, Mr. Cook, West said. Prior to the sentencing, District Attorney Tim Thompson gave the details of the killings based on investigators' findings and also statements from Cook. So let's just talk about kind of what happened. We can get back to this. So this guy shows up. They're hanging out in the bar. They end up hanging out. What we gathered from what we were told from first-hand sources or second-hand sources, basically, as you guys would know, this would be told from her family. He had been in jail already and was on parole. And it was just him and her going to pick up some meth. And they got in an argument, and he slapped her.
He hit her, yeah.
This is what he told police. I don't necessarily believe this guy. I'll believe some of it. I believe this part of it, but I don't believe all of it. So he slaps her, and I guess she's freaking out and says she's going to call the cops, and he's like, I'm not going back to jail. So he decides...
And that's when he decided he was going to kill her.
He's going to kill her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he does her in. We'll get to more details of that in a minute. He says he strangles her.
Right.
Probably.
Well, according to the coroner, she was brutally assaulted.
She was beat. He beat her.
According to, I mean, she had chest stab wounds in her chest. She was messed up.
Yeah, he didn't it wasn't an easy murder.
He didn't just choke her out.
She didn't fall asleep and not wake up like he said that he told her it was going to happen. No.
Right.
And I don't think he did it in the woods either. So anyway, he kills her, and then he goes back, gets rid of her body, and then he goes back and he tells, I think, not the boyfriend, but the third wheel guy, hey, here's what went down. I'm going to have to do the boyfriend in too. I need you to help me help me do this, and you and I can get the hell out of here. When the whole time, and Greg even told the cops this, the whole time he knew he was going to kill both these guys. He was just trying to make it easier on him, not to deal with 2 of them. Gets him up in the mountains there, somewhere in the Blue Mountains there, where you and I have been plenty of times.
Many times, yeah.
Hiking around.
Yep.
And he has him dig a shallow grave. And he talks, he's held him at gunpoint, right? And he digs a shallow grave. I forget how he got the guy up there. Do you remember how he got the boyfriend up there? Did he already have him at gunpoint before he?
Yeah, he already had the gun on him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Gets him on gunpoint, drives him up to the woods, which was the guy's mistake. You just if you're gonna get shot.
Yeah, even on the show, the cops said, I don't even know why these guys were playing along with him, because they had the shovels. All they had to do was swing around and bash his head in.
Yeah. I've always said if I
would have got shot, but they'd both be alive probably.
I know. Well, I've always said if you're ever held at gunpoint, the longer you're in a captive situation, the more likely your chances of survival lessen.
Right.
So, if they would have confronted him right at the point that he held them at gunpoint, they may or may not have gotten shot. They might have been able to take him down. But by letting him drive them up into the woods and get them out and tie them together like he did, I think he made them tie their belts together.
He made them dig holes.
Right.
He made them dig their own graves, and then he shot him in the back of the head. He shot the one guy in the back of the head, and then the other guy turned around and tried to come at him, and he shot him in the face.
Yeah, he told the guys. Yeah, he told the guys. He made him sound like he wasn't going to kill them. At
least they didn't say on TV that he tied them together.
I had heard that he had said he had made them loop their belts together back to back, so they couldn't run away. So yeah, he kills these guys, and then do you remember what it said about how they found? Well, we know how they found out. That's right, but no one reported them missing. I don't think because they were so seclusive and into drugs and whatnot. So
the bartender at the last bar they were at is the one that set the cops on the right path after the guy that they were looking for.
So what happens after this? Greg takes off, obviously, I guess, hitchhiking or something. I think they ended up catching him in Washington somewhere.
Yeah, Tacoma. No, over by Rainier.
These boys are fishing in this local pond over there around La Grande. One of the boys reels in something. They get it up, reel it in, get on the shore. It's not a fish. It's a hand, a human hand.
It's a human hand.
And
surprise.
Some of the stuff that we're telling you is, coming from what we've read and seen on TV, but we've also been told the story by the son-in-law. We won't mention their names, but so we kind of know a little more than it might talk about. But so I guess the boys called the cops, and the cops didn't believe them. They thought there was just some kids pranking them. So the boys sent him a picture. Text this cop this picture of this hand.
Well, he sent it to his mom first.
Oh, okay.
Because his mom is a nurse. So he sent it to her and said, is this real? And she's like, that's real.
They finally came out there. They drained this pond, right? And I believe they find the other hand.
Yep. And the head.
And her head.
In the bag.
And I don't think this pond was huge.
No. From the looks of things, if it's the same one that was on TV, it wasn't very big.
That's why I think that, he had told the cops that he had told her he was going to kill her because he wasn't going back to jail, and then he was going to strangle her. She would pass out and never wake up, and it would be painful. But I'm pretty sure, like you said, he beat her.
Pretty sure it was painful.
Very painful, and he did it right somewhere there in town or very close to. Dismembered her there. Dumped in the pond, then took the rest of her remains up into the mountains and dumped them up there.
Yep, that's what I think too.
So he does that. Then he kills the boyfriend and the friend.
Right. And he takes off.
He didn't do anything. He just left their bodies there, right? He didn't cover them up or anything. Did he just try to bury them or anything?
Sort of half-ass buried him because they made him dig those little graves. So he just dumped them in the holes and barely covered them. So on his way out, he was leaving. He took off running. I guess he went over towards Rainier, where I think they said on the TV show. So it says, while fleeing the cops, Gregory met a woman named Linda May at a laundromat over there in Rainier. She had a camper out somewhere that she was staying in. So they're talking, and he's like, I'm not crazy or anything. You can even call my daughter, and she'll vouch for me. So they call his daughter. She lived somewhere in the Midwest, I think. They call her. She talks to the daughter. And obviously the daughter can't say anything because she had heard by that point that he was wanted. And if he'd have said something, then he would have known that she knew, and then she would have killed him, or he would have killed her, right? So she's all like, okay, let's go back to the camper. And he was going to let her stay there. She was going to let him stay there for a little while. So they get back there, and then he commences to tell her what happened. Well, meantime, his daughter calls the police in La Grande, and they get the the other police involved, and he didn't kill her. I mean, luckily the police got there in time. He was going to. I'm sure he would have, because he even told them that he would have, because he wasn't leaving any witnesses. So the police showed up, and that's where they arrested him.
That's where they caught him. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it says here, as part of the agreement with the DA, Cook gave a recitation of his crimes under a polygraph. Cook said no one else was involved in the murders. Thompson said the polygraph shows him to be telling the truth. I think we've put an end to any conspiracy theories that are out there. The crimes began to become to light July 24th when a human hand was found in Goldfish Pond off Pumpkin Ridge Road near Elgin, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever been to Elgin, but it's not far away from
Yeah, it's not far, because the Grand police were involved. So
the next day, human remains were discovered within a mile of the pond. So it doesn't say the head was found here. That's interesting.
it did on the show. The head and the hands were, well, one of the hands and the head were in the bag.
Here we go. I should have continued on. Authorities drained the pond and found a backpack containing a human head, a hand, rocks, and a rope. Oregon State Police criminalists were able to bring out sufficient fingerprint detail to identify Sloan as the victim. Cook, Sloan, Johnston, and Scaramucci were known associates and had been seen together around the time of the murders. Authorities sought Cook, Scaramucci, and Johnston as persons of interest in the case. So at that time, they didn't know that the other two were dead.
Right.
And no one knew that she was missing or dead, because no one really...
Well, not until they found her hands.
Right, but they were kind of estranged. I know that from their family.
Yeah.
On July 31st, Trooper Kyle Hove spotted Cook's car in LeGrand and pulled it over. Cook's girlfriend, Denise Murphy, was driving. Murphy told Hove she had written confession from Cook relating to the deaths. A written confession? On August 3rd, Cook was taken into custody near Rainier, Washington. So it says, investigators determined that Sloan, Cook, Johnston, and Scaramucci had been together on July 17th. According to Thompson, Johnston drove to Umatilla County in Cook's car and purchased methamphetamine and an opiate drug. In Elgin, Sloan and Cook shared some methamphetamine. A dispute arose over payment by Sloan to Cook for the drugs. Sloan refused to pay and Cook became angry. He took her for a drive in his vehicle. He struck her and refused to let her go home. At one point, Cook had Sloan remove her shoes and walk to the location off Pumpkin Ridge Road where her remains were found. He strangled her, dismembered her head and hands, and placed them in the backpack and covered her body with a brush. See, I don't believe that. I don't think that's how it happened. This is all this only is coming from him. He's the only person
Right.
to say what happened.
Right. Yeah, because he killed everybody else.
To be able to tell. So, you believe him or you don't, I guess. He disposed of the backpack. Cook then drove to the Sloan's house, located Johnston and Scaramucci, told them to get in his car. During the drive, he told Johnston what happened to Sloan, assuring Johnston that Johnston would be fine if he went along with what Cook planned to tell Scaramucci. But at a remote location along Gordon Creek Road, I've seen that road before. I've seen that on a map, or I've
Probably.
seen that in the mountains up there because I was looking somewhere to go hiking.
Probably driven by it.
Cook forced the men to each take a shovel he had provided. The three men walked up the hill into the woods. There he told them he had killed Sloan. Cook ordered the men to dig shallow grave. Yep. Telling them that they would be killed and buried there if they ever spoke a word about what happened to Sloan. He ordered Johnston and Scaramucci to tie themselves together with a belt. They recited the Lord's Prayer before Cook shot them in the head several times.
See, they left that part out in the TV show.
Yeah. He covered
They did do the Lord's Prayer, though.
They said that?
Yeah.
He covered their bodies with brush. Cook told investigators that he killed Johnston and Scaramucci to prevent them from identifying him as the last person seen with Sloan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to, you're going to go back to jail, why take people's lives and out of the equation,
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you can probably maybe partly blame it on the drugs, but this guy was just a fucking nut job.
Yeah, I wonder if he hadn't done something prior. I wonder what his prior was, why he was serving time.
He was what'd they say? They said that he was a sex offender. He had some assault charges. He was, according to his rap sheet, he was not a good guy.
says here, the district attorney said that between July 17th and July 24th, Cook attempted to conceal his crimes by disposing of evidence. He returned to each crime scene to reposition brush to further conceal the bodies. When he became aware that Sloan's remains had been identified, he made plans to leave the state. Ultimately, Cook told Murphy what he had done, wrote the confession letter, and told her to take it to the police in Union County. He traveled from Hermiston to Seattle and Rainier, where he was captured.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the guy do that?
I don't know.
Did he feel that guilty?
Why did he do any of that? You know, that's
Here's my confession. I'm going to run now.
yep. I don't know. Just think he wasn't going to catch him, or I don't know. Crazy. Again, you know how does the psychotic mind work? How do they think? Sociopathic, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, just nuts, man. People just like this guy don't. It scares me that there's people like that out there roaming the streets, because there are.
Oh yeah, for sure. We probably come across them every day. Just don't know.
Goes on to talk about in the court hearing how the family members and other people, basically told him to rot in hell.
Yeah.
Hope you suffer. Mercy, whatever, talking about their families and everything, and how he ruined people's lives, He says, "I have to say it myself," Cook said, shaking his head. Then he turned to face the people in the courtroom. "I don't blame you all for the way you feel about me. I felt so bad about myself that I went to Seattle to buy heroin to kill myself with, but it didn't work." Cook repeated what he had told the local reporters in an interview following his capture. Drugs were to blame for his behavior. "The truth is, in my heart, I'm not a bad person," he said.
Uh-huh. That's what they all say.
"When I wasn't high on meth, I wouldn't in a million billion years do something like this." Must have been some really messed up meth. Zombie
That
meth.
lasted for a really long time.
Zombie meth. It's that zombie shit coming out.
Must have been.
Cook, who previously served time in prison in Washington and Oregon for assault and sex abuse, said that after he started using meth, he stopped folding my hands and getting on my knees to pray. "I became thoroughly addicted and I lost touch with God," he said. He also wants the community to be aware of the threat meth poses. "No one who does meth is exempt from doing the things I did," he said. He apologized to the survivors for the crimes. I don't think I believe that either. I don't think that
Nope.
meth will make you kill somebody. I mean, it sure as hell won't help, but this guy was just whacked out to begin with.
Yeah, I think you got to be a psycho before you do the drugs, and the drugs probably just help it along,
After waiving extradition, Cook was brought to Oregon from a jail in Olympia to face charges in the deaths of Sloan, Scaramucci, and Johnston. 51, 50, and 28 years old. Cook, 42, was a self-employed house painter. That's how he met the three, it says. Like you said, though, I think they met in the bar, maybe talking about him doing something.
Right.
Shortly after his arrest, Cook told a television news crew on camera that he had killed 3, blaming the use of meth. "I did it," he said, "and I apologize highly for all the families and everyone affected." To the community, "Obviously you'll be safe now," he said. Later, he said, "Without methamphetamine, it would probably be a lot better world." Wow.
Well, I think we all know that.
Meth's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
What's the craziest thing you've ever heard anyone do on meth?
I don't
Not kill people.
try to talk to meth heads.
I mean, not personally. But have you heard stories about people trying to eat people because they were high on meth? I've heard of bath salts.
No, bath salts.
Maybe. Probably they're both probably just as bad for you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't get it. I'm surprised those guys went along with. He must have just had that guy, maybe not at gunpoint, the first guy that he told. They just go along with the thing. What did he tell him to get in the car? What made them get in the car? Did he have?
I don't know. They said he was very persuasive. I don't know. Just been one hell of a con man.
And had those guys not been on doing drugs and been involved in that, they probably would still be alive today. Actually, they would be.
They would most definitely be.
They probably wouldn't have been
All of them
associating the
would be.
guy with guy like Greg, and
Mm-hmm.
and also made the decisions they made after the fact to
Yeah.
to go with them up in the woods, or to go along with, or whatever, or to not, try to do something when it was too late. Like you
Yep.
said, the guy tried to run at him, but he shot him, because they were tied together, the belt.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing too about it. When we talk about crimes, don't ever let someone get you at gunpoint very long, and don't ever let someone tie you up. Because once you're tied up, you're done.
Yeah, you're done.
I mean, you might get lucky and survive, but you have no chance.
Yeah, chances are better that you're not going to survive.
Like I tell my wife, I said, if you're attacked, do not let it go any further than 30 seconds. It's gonna have to end one way or the other. If they're gonna kill you, they're gonna kill you. Don't let them get you inside a vehicle. Don't let them tie you up. Don't let them. The further they get along with the process, the worse it's going to be. So, just in general, as a safety hazard, people that are assaulted, you've got to react, and you've got to take care of the situation, however that might be. If you carry a gun, a taser, pepper spray, you scream, yell, fight.
Yeah, something. Yeah, take a chunk out of them if you have to.
But there's some crazy, crazy ass people in this world.
There are. And they all seem to be in the Pacific Northwest.
They do. And my condolences to the family.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's a terrible thing.
We still talk to them, and from time to time, and see them. And we wanted to keep their names private for this show for that reason. Yeah, another good show, man. We'll continue to bring some interesting, disgusting, gory, scary crime to you guys as much as possible.
Yeah. We get it. You'll get it.
If you've got something you want us to cover, go ahead and shoot us an email. What's that email, Brian?
truecrimenation@outlook.com.
It's good hanging out with you again.
Always.
Thank you, and thanks, listeners. And remember,
Monsters are real.